Hey, what is going on, guys? Happy Sunday. We just finished up with Mwave 2022. Thought we'd take some time tonight to kind of share about that experience. Hopefully, you guys that are in the chat, some of you, if you were at Mwave, would love to kind of get your feedback as well. Ryan, how are you recovering, man?
I'm still recovering.
You're thinking about it. It's like, well,
I'm
I
still
don't know, man.
recovering. It's never ending. It's as soon as that one ended,
Yeah.
Michael and I on Monday were already out looking at spaces. And
Yeah.
Michael on the way home from Friday or from Sunday's like, we're not going to talk about it for 2 weeks or whatever. And then we're out looking at venues the very next day.
Yeah. It was kind of wild because
that lasted all of 2 hours.
Yeah,
2 minutes.
I said, Ryan, let's just take a break because I mean, this has been a long 6 months. I mean, we needed a year to plan. We had 6 months to plan, but we're like, we got it done. It was an awesome weekend. We'll talk about that in the show. And we're exhausted. We're heading to Ryan's with this loaded van to unload stuff. We got a caravan of volunteers helping out, following us. And I'm like, Ryan, let's don't talk about this for 2 weeks.
I'm going to turn off my webcam because I'm eating.
I bet it literally was just a few minutes, and I started talking about Mwave and thinking about this, and then we get to his house, and later on, after everybody leaves and everything, he's like, "Hey, Michael, you want to go look at some venues?" And I went, "Yeah, let's do it." So we're trying to figure out, like, is the lead center the best option? And for what we had, the amount of people that we had, it was a great venue. It's a beautiful facility, this massive auditorium. If you go to the Facebook group, you can see some pictures on there, the Mwave and Midwest AV Experience Facebook group. We got lots of photos on there. But when we start adding a lot more vendors over the course of the next several years, it's not going to accommodate that. There's not available rooms. There's probably only the big room, and then we had the dance studio, which is another decent sized room. And then I think they may have like 2 other rooms in the back. So really we've got maybe room for 2 vendors, and that just probably isn't going to work well. So we're definitely looking at some other options. One of them is local college. Ryan, what college is that?
Johnson County Community College. So it's a huge local community college. Let me turn my webcam back on.
Yeah, you're good.
It's a huge local community college, and they've got this big space that's a flexible space that we can break up into 4 smaller spaces, which is great. And then they have what are classrooms, but we can take everything out or move everything around. And it just gives us a lot of flexibility, keeping everything in the same location. We're not worried about using hotels and hotel rooms and stuff like that. But it gives us the ability to allow vendors to showcase in their own room.
Yeah.
And also have space to be flexible and have bigger areas to do whatever we want. Brian says the KC Expo Center is pretty big and close to the airport. Well, that may be true. That stuff gets really expensive. I mean, really expensive. So it's really difficult when you're just getting started with these events, especially when you're just 2 guys, to be able to make something like this happen.
Yeah.
And our event is so much different than normal expos that we want to make sure that we have flexibility in what we're doing, and we can put that into the event instead of getting hampered down with cost, right? Because we want to do things like comparisons and stuff. And if we're just doing expo rooms and it costs us a small fortune or a huge fortune to be able to rent bigger spaces for the comparisons, it doesn't really work.
So just to give you an idea, we went to this one location. It was basically maybe a Sheraton. I'm not sure what the
DoubleTree. It was DoubleTree. Yeah.
So it's DoubleTree Hotel here, and then right adjacent to it, they had built their own little convention center. So you had this big, massive main auditorium that you could rent out. Then there's a bunch of different rooms, large hallways, so you could use that as an expo hall, kind of speak. So there was a lot of flexibility, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm going, man, this would be great. People could room here and walk right over to the conference center. And then she's about to go get the pricing after we're done talking. And I'm like, I took photos and videos, and I said, well, before you go get like all the pricing and a breakdown, just give me a rough idea. Like, what are we talking? And she goes, well, let me just tell you this. We're not cheap. She said, you're going to spend about $15,000 per room per day. And I looked at Ryan. I was like, what'd she just say?
But the funny thing is
Ryan
Michael
starts
continued
walking
to,
off.
Yeah, Michael was continuing to engage the conversation. I'm like, well, bye, Felicia. And I just start walking out.
I was trying to be nice, man. I'm like,
I could have said bye.
It was hilarious, man. So I started doing the math. She told us, she said, if you were to rent out, like if you could guarantee that you can rent out every one of our rooms, we
200 rooms.
Yeah, we might just give you the space for free. And I'm like, okay, well, that might not be a bad deal. So we get out in the car and I do the math on that. And it was going to be $90,000. I'm like, okay, we got to find somewhere else. So that was definitely not, yeah, she was not talking to millionaires at all.
Nope.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, man. So it was crazy. So we're definitely looking at other options. So the college may be, because even at the college, we could, put up some acoustic treatment as far as like curtains and stuff to kind of dampen the rooms, because they are classrooms. I mean, they're not
a lot of curtains. We would do it right.
Yeah. So they're not like acoustically treated, but we could, in the cost of, if a vendor rented out that space, then that would give us some funds to be able to, to add some treatment to that room to help them out and so forth. So, but yeah,
again,
we'll go ahead.
Doing that instead of the lead center. I love the lead center. I mean, the stage was amazing.
The people are awesome.
Yeah, it was great. But we just don't have the flexibility like we would have at the other one. The Edwards campus, Johnson County Community College is going to be very similar to that. And I think the community college's space is actually bigger. So it makes more sense. Edwards campus is old too. And the Rayner Center is fairly new, and it looks new and it's well maintained. So it was good. Take it as a compliment. You guys had that. I don't know if she actually thought that. She may have just been trying to let us down easy.
Yeah.
At the very end. So I don't know that she thought it was that way.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure.
Thanks for at least having that thought.
Exactly. So let me just say hi to some folks in the chat. Who we got over here? We've got Raphael. Ian's here. Ian was at the event, man. Such a good guy. Leon K-Man, what's going on? Kellen's in the house. Chris. Who else we got? Jed. Tristan. Brian. Brian's cool. I actually met him on a flight. He was like, "Youth man?" I was like, yeah. So that was pretty wild. And then he ended up buying, all right, the gentleman that bought, or that won the screen that I was just showing you. Ryan bought his subwoofer, and they got to talking, and he said something about Youth Man, and Croson's like, well, I know Youth Man. He said, no way. And then Croson calls me. He's like, you're not going to guess who's in my living room. I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, the dude you met on the plane. It's just really weird, man. So good to see you, Brian. All right. Mike's in the house. Austin, bunch of folks, man. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us for a little while. But I'd love to kind of talk through a little bit about Mwave, what we experienced. I took about 8 pages of notes based on feedback that we received from attendees. All in all, we probably had about 90 attendees for the first year, which was definitely like, I don't want 1,000 people the first year. I told Ryan, I said, let's do this thing small, do it to the best of our ability, do it right. And then let's figure out, okay, how can we grow this, have more people, have more vendors and that sort of thing. And so it was definitely the right amount, because too many more and it would have been a disaster for sure. So Derek was there. He said he had a great time. Appreciate that, man. It was really, really cool getting to meet you guys. It was one of those things where I had expectations and thoughts of what I thought Mwave could be. And I'll be honest, it literally exceeded what I had ever dreamed and hoped for. The camaraderie, the fellowship aspect of it was the best part. I mean, I love the speaker comparison. I love the projector comparison. Didn't get a chance to be a part of the amplifier comparison or the room correction, because I was kind of helping with the speaker comparison. But all that stuff was cool. But what I really valued the most and what I've always valued is the relationships that are established because of that. So that's one of the things that exceeded my expectations, man. But it was funny because I got a comment from a gentleman that was there, and he basically said, man, I went to work today and I was sad because I wanted to be back in Mwave. It was funny. So I added it to the website. You can go check that out. But it was really cool that, that this was one of those events that people generally walked away with new friendships, knowledge, a better understanding, experiences that they had never gotten, experiences, even like listening to what does $100,000 pair of speakers sound like? That's an experience. I mean, you may not ever own $100,000, pair of speakers. I probably won't. But the fact is, having that experience was really cool. And to be able to pair that up just next to a totally different sounding speaker. I mean, we weren't even trying to match price point. It was just like, okay, here's 4 types of speakers. We have a regular traditional speaker, which was your per listen, like a tower speaker. We had JBL, which is line array. Guess it's still a line array.
It's a line array. Well, they're all line sources. A line array is a type of line source. So
it's got just really, really wide dispersion, totally different sound. Then we had the RTJ, tower power, massive 418-inch subwoofers, 8 10-inch speakers. So just big, bossy, powerful speakers, but they're a horn-loaded speaker, so they're going to sound different. And then on top of that, now you've got an electrostat, $100,000 electrostat. So just giving people experiences that they wouldn't get otherwise to hear those types of speakers. So that was really cool. The projector comparison, I think, was a huge, huge hit. Some things that were really cool to me is Seymour AV was there, Chris and Evan, and they did this. I didn't know they were going to do this, but they had their 2 screens. They had a 150-inch screen on the right, 150 on the left. I didn't realize they were 2 different screens. One was an electronic masking. See, they're smart. So they brought one of their electronic masking screens, and then they brought one with manual magnetic masking. And it was cool. So during their demo, they actually came out and put some source material on the screen. And Chris would have, like, say, a more expensive projector on the left, a less expensive projector on the right. And then he would add masking, the electronic masking on the right. And I kid you not, our eyes looked at it and went, I kind of like that projector better than the other one.
The perceived contrast got better.
So weird, man. And he did it several times. So it wasn't like placebo, but we all physically watched it as soon as he added the masking.
Well, it was
it was
the 7,000 against the 6,000, and the 7,000 had live color, which is Sony's new addition to their dynamic tone mapping. So it's got better color, but when he put on masking on the other screen, it looked better. But then when he put masking on both, the 7,000 then looked better. So it was really, I think, an eye-opening experience for people, that what perceived contrast can do for you. And I think it was impromptu, because I don't think Chris planned to do that, but it ended up working out really well for what was out there.
It was an incredible demo. Like, we all were like, you got to be kidding me. Because I never even thought, I'm like, I can deal with gray bars. And I tell people all the time, if I'm watching a 16:9 movie on my 2.35:1 screen, I never notice the gray bars. That's not the issue. It's not the issue of you don't notice them. I didn't realize like how much difference or how much more it improves your image quality if those gray bars are black. And it was just really, really, really cool. So, but definitely, it was awesome. Some of you guys said you saw FOMO's video. Got a lot of good information from that, Jeff says. So that is super cool. But yeah, so FOMO, that was a last minute thing too. Again, we were trying to do this to where, we didn't want to put too much on our plate this first year. I'd rather add a little bit each year to improve it, instead of trying to do everything and just end up doing nothing right. And so we're there, Saturday night? And
it's 11 p.m. on Saturday night.
It's like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I think Ryan brings it up. He's like, hey, guys, you think we should try to live stream tomorrow night or tomorrow for the projector comparison? And I went, maybe. FOMO was like, yeah, I could do that. And so we started talking. Ryan's like, okay, guys, y'all handle it. I'm going to bed. And so
I thought we were done. No.
No,
Do
dude,
not throw me under the bus. You guys are like, oh yeah, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no,
me and FOMO stayed up till about 1 that morning, just trying to figure out all the details. And he was creating the live stream, and we're both sending out on social media to invite people and creating graphics and this and that. And no, it was totally cool. I mean, there wasn't anything that you could do on that end, but we kind of gathered all of our stuff. He had some equipment, but he didn't have a tripod. So he used my tripod, and then I had microphones that he could use. So that was good because you were able to hear kind of what he was talking about. And we also had another commentator, Andy, was a part of that. And so he had a microphone. And so that was all going into FOMO's camera. And so it was just done very well. And hopefully it just gives you at least some idea of what that looked like. And even if you couldn't exactly see a proper representation on screen, hopefully their commentary at least kind of shared what we were visually seeing in hand. And so that was just really, really fun. If you've never been to a projector comparison, it's pretty eye-opening. You'll find that a lot of times there are things that they're more similar than they are different, but there are definitely some distinct differences. To most people watching, we could visually see that JVC definitely had better blacks than Sony did. But then there were times that Sony excelled at certain things and over the JVC. So there wasn't like a winner. And that really wasn't the purpose. The purpose is when you take the bias out of knowing what projector is being shown, we would put 2 on the screen and you wouldn't know what they were. But you're noticing, okay, I see the black levels over here are way darker than over here. In bright scenes, this one kind of like washes everything out. It's blown out. But this one, the detail is being pulled out in those white, bright areas. Shadow detail, we notice a big difference in some of the comparisons. One of them was like just almost totally black. You couldn't even see what he was doing. And then the other one, you could literally see like a wet tear coming down his face. And it was just very vivid. And so just being able to see that was really, really, like I said, it was fun. I think people really enjoyed that. So that might even be something that we, this year was like a big year for both Sony, or actually all three, Sony, Epson, and JVC. So they all had brand new laser projectors. And so it was really awesome to be able to put all 7 of those side by side and say, okay, what are the differences? So we may or may not be able to do that with the same ones next year. I mean, we may, who knows? So, let's see. What does he say? I'm looking at Starlight's comment, and you may have to pop these up here. Here we go. Been watching Youthman channel 4 years. Dang, that's awesome. I'm glad you're still here. Building DIY supersized subwoofers and buying pro power amps. Enjoy home theater journey. Great job. Appreciate it, brother. It's been an awesome ride, man. 4 years, and I'm a baby in this stuff, man. You look at guys like, I was watching a video of MKBHD, and at some point he's gonna be doing this thing for like 20, 30 years. He's like one of the OGs, but definitely, man. Yeah, sadly no Optima. We just had what we had, and even when we did the one at Ryan's house last year, it's one of those things like people are like, man, you should have had this. Well, that would have been nice if somebody would have brought one, or a vendor would have sent one, but we can only use
I can only fit so much of my stuff in the truck.
Yeah.
Like I think at one point I was adding it all up and I had probably like $200,000 worth of gear at that show.
Yeah.
And actually the only 2 things, one of the Martin Logan subs took a little ding and it's got a little nick in it, which is fine. And then I lost my quick release for my camera.
Oh, man.
But, in all of that, for how much gear was there, nothing else was damaged. Nothing was lost. Everybody, I think, everybody got their stuff back. I mean, it was...
Except Youthman's lighting is still at your house.
That still. But we know where that is, at least.
That's right.
It wasn't something that was just lost and we can't find. But there's only so much that we can do, right? It's at some point I have to draw the line to reduce the risk of a divorce with my wife. right?
Yeah, I get it.
Like the Perlissons that were there were effectively bought by me for the show. I got a demo pair and leveraged the show to be able to get them there, and that was something big to be able to do that. So it was not an inconsiderable amount to be able to fund it, but it was well worth it, right? And it pays dividends in the end. But to the comment about like Optima and stuff, man, if vendors want to do that or people want to donate stuff, we can. Michael and I can only manage so much.
Yeah.
Right. And even the NZ9 was mine, but the NZ7 was Jonathan's, and the NZ8 was Bob's.
And so somebody brought the NZ5 or NX5.
Yeah,
right?
and the NX5 was Brian's. So a lot of those were still provided by the community. And then Brian allowed us to use the JBLs, which he allowed us to use 7. We only used 2. And it was just amazing that all of that stuff was allowed to be there, and that the guys allowed us to use that stuff. The
community was fantastic. And even, setting up and tearing down, we had the VIPs at your house on Thursday, and I'm just looking at Ryan going, I don't want to load that truck by myself with you.
No.
So we had like 30 guys there, and I'm like, hey guys, you want to help out? And they're like, heck yeah, let's do this, man. So it was awesome. Everybody loaded up. Croson, which is in the chat.
Paul, the load master.
I call him the ratchet. What I call him? Ratchet master? I don't know, something
Ratchet
like that.
Master.
He was like, it probably sounds bad.
We got to get him a shirt.
But I mean, he was like, he's like, dude, I got this thing ratcheted down. Cause I mean, we're talking about expensive gear. We don't want this stuff shifting, and we don't want it flying through the front of the cab of the truck and, taking out the 2 coordinators for Mwave. That'd be bad. Have no show. But he took care of all that. But it was just cool seeing the community come together to help out. And then even before the event, like the day of, I'm getting texts and people are like, hey bro, if you need any help, whatever, loading, unloading, moving, setup, whatever, let me know. I'll be there. And I'm like, well, come on, we could use your help. And it was awesome just to see everybody. And somebody told me this, and I thought it was really cool. They said, Michael, everybody here at the event wants this to succeed. And I was like, man, that excited me. That was really, really cool. But since we're talking about Croson, he's like, uh-oh, where is he going with this? So Croson had a chance to participate in kind of like a face-off with a couple other people. And in that, he ended up winning a 150-inch screen for his setup, man. So he got a nice little upgrade there. You see the top one is the 150-inch. Croson, let us know in the chat, what was the size of the one below it? Was that like a 120 or 130? But he's loving that. He's got it set up in his living room. So I thought that was super cool, man.
Well, and then I went from a 120 to a 130.
Oh, that's right.
30 minutes or less, right?
Tell them about that.
So during the Thursday, we're going out and doing all of these home theaters. And the week before, on like Saturday, I call Seymour. I call Evan. I'm like, hey, I hate my screen.
Yeah.
I can't do it. My subs are vibrating my screen. Like I can hear it rattling. I can't do it anymore. I need to do something. And Seymour they're a brand that I represent. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard me talk about this, but I only really represent brands that I would use and do use in my own home theater. So Seymour, I needed a new screen and I needed to put something in there that I had or represented. So I called Evan. He's like, maybe that's really, really short notice, but let me see what I can do. So then he comes around, and I think it's Sunday or Monday. He calls me and says, I got a 130 Seymour Screen Excellence. What is it? Radiant white.
Yep.
And 130-inch diagonal, 16 by 9. I think, this is going to be maybe. I thought it was too big because I have a center height, and it would have pushed behind the center height, and it would have been a problem. Yeah. But I say, okay, I'll move the center height and make it work. So they end up bringing it down. And then when Michael comes in, he helps me move the center height up. And he, I think, was grimacing a little bit because I had to put two more holes.
Yeah, tell him about that. He's got like Swiss cheese on the side of this
all
thing.
Of my cabinet speakers. So it's a full Martin Logan setup. The bed layer is all electrostatics, and the top is all Motion XTIs. But the problem with the Motion XTIs is that they don't have wall mounting points. So they're all screwed into. Like all of the cabinets
Straight
are
up.
screwed into. So I'd screwed into the top of the 50 XTI once, and then to move it, I had to screw into the sides of it. So now I've put more holes. I mean, I wasn't going to be able to resell it anyway, so
I know, but
it was
it just
fine.
it hurt my heart.
It hurt,
See,
yeah.
like,
well,
holes going
so
in
we
a
moved it up,
piano black finish.
getting ready for the screen, and we're measuring, and it's going to fit. Well, then on Thursday, after the home theater tours at Jonathan's and Grant's, Seymour shows up, and it's a huge box. It is not small. And my wife did not know about this projector screen until Chris and Evan were walking into my house. And she's sitting on the couch just staring at me like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this? And she didn't actually say anything. I just got this look. And
You got the stank eye.
I did. And it was kind of, I made that uncomfortable laughing. Like, I don't know what else to do. I know I'm in deep, deep crap.
What I do?
But I can't do anything at this point. So we take it downstairs. And Chris and Evan do an awesome job of getting it set up. We get it mounted, and it's fantastic. It looks awesome, but we haven't turned the projector on at this point. So then we turn the projector on. It's an NZ9 pointed at it, and I start zooming out, and then I realize, crap, it stopped zooming. What does that mean? Oh, I've run out of zoom. So I've realized that I can't zoom out any further. But then after some finagling, we realize that the projector, I don't know how lucky I can get. Maybe I should have played the huge $1.2 billion lottery. But it got to the point where I was sized to my screen by 1/8 of an inch. It was so close that I was actually having to turn the projector to get the sizing correct because I was losing space. But it ended up fitting by 1/8 of an inch. And the guys made it work. And it's unbelievably. We watched Jurassic Park last night. Yeah. And I think I have to turn the projector down because it was too bright.
Right. Gotcha.
But it was good. It was a great experience. So if anybody wants Seymour, there's nothing better in my opinion at this point.
I've had mine in my theater room now for, I think it's been like 7 years. And I don't even have the Excellence version. I've got the Seymour AV. So that's a center stage XD acoustic transparent. And I've been more than pleased with it. It's just, the thing that impressed me the most with it isn't like visual quality or anything. It's literally the durability. It is crazy, crazy thick. Like my previous screen, I was afraid if I like pushed on it too much, it would kind of stretch it, or heaven forbid somebody accidentally bump, something sharp up against it. It's going to make a big mark. This thing is like, it's woven fabric. So it's like super, super dense. You're not going to like rip it at all. So thought it was pretty cool. Ian says, he says he's probably the only one who can say that he won a screen off rock, paper, scissors for sure. So we had some really cool giveaways. We had 2 150-inch screens from Elite. We gave away a $2,000 brand new seat from Valencia Theater Seating. We had an OSD amplifier. That was a 3-channel, I believe. Emotiva. That was a 2-channel amplifier. Funny thing is we actually ended up using the Emotiva or the OSD amplifier on some of the big speakers, and it was crazy how well it did. Nobody was like, oh man, where's the extra power? And we're powering like massive speakers. So that was pretty impressive. What else did we give away, Ryan? There was one more I'm thinking or forgetting about. There was one more thing.
The seat?
Oh, Seymour gave away some cool glasses, some custom glasses.
That was not a seat.
I know. I said the seat though.
Oh, you did? Yeah, Seymour gave away the glasses.
Yeah, they had the glasses.
Rusty bought one of their screens.
Yeah. He actually was so impressed with it. He bought it there at the show, one of their demos. Man, I know I'm forgetting somebody. What else was there? 2 amplifiers, a seat.
The sub.
Oh yeah, that's why I always forget, and I love SVS. The reason why, there's only 30 people saying SVS. The reason why is because it wasn't physically there at the trade show, so they're drop shipping it to the winner. So that was super cool. They won a PB 2000 subwoofer, so that was pretty awesome of them to donate that. I'm hoping that they'll be able to come back, like be physically there this year. They just didn't have enough time to prepare for it. They already had other obligations, so. But anyway, man, it was super, super cool. Life of Bliss got to to hang out. Yeah, he did some. I saw several people do some trading. They're like, I won this, but I'd really like that. You want to switch? And they're like, yeah, man. So Life of Bliss ended up trading a subwoofer, I think, that he bought from you. Was that correct, Ryan?
What?
Did Life of Bliss buy the Definitive Technology sub from you?
No.
For some reason I thought he said he bought a sub and then he traded it. So maybe it wasn't. But anyway, so he traded it. He wanted the glasses, and the person that
he won the OSD amplifier. And then he traded it for the whiskey glasses. The sub came from one of the guys bought one of those Martin Logan subs. Rusty bought it and then traded
he wanted the seat.
He got the seat.
Yeah, because the other guy didn't need a single seat. Yeah. So
there was some haggling.
Cool. Yeah, man. It was hilarious, man. It was
but something that I think is a warranted point is somebody said that we should have like a for sale section.
Yeah.
And I think that would be cool. I think it'd be cool if we had like images of things that were for sale so people didn't have to bring them in and worry about things getting stolen. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, because I'd hate that. Because then you got to have somebody manning the whole area and the table. And then if somebody wants to buy it, then it's like, okay, how do I get them in touch with the owner? And
so
there's
the OSD amplifier, Keeping Up with the Joneses, was actually used for the speaker comparison. It did really well. We were using the Anthem at first, but it was getting really hot. Yeah. And the OSD did very well, especially for a $700 amplifier or $600 amplifier.
Do you think that was possibly due to the impedance of the maybe like the Martin Logans? Or Simon said that, you know, maybe it even could have been the switcher that somehow it I don't know, it didn't like that switcher for some reason.
The Anthem?
Yeah.
I think it was the Martin Logans are really hard on speakers.
Yeah.
Or on amplifiers because they can dip really low. And we didn't really have the Martin Logans turned up very loud.
Yeah.
So it's just really hard on some amplifiers. And I don't think that Anthem put out a ton of power. I think the OSD put out a lot more power. There's a reason why I'm running my CX1102 1700 watts a channel in mine.
Yeah.
And somebody asked, Chris Contreras asked me if those are Magna pans behind me. No, those are the Martin Logan Renaissance 15As, and then the 34C. Those are in my showroom theater in the basement. And where am I? I was eating pizza again, so I turned myself off so you guys didn't have to watch me stuff my face.
Is that ours or somebody else? Okay. Somebody's car's alarm's going off. I thought it was mine.
Can't hear it.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, somebody asked, Theater Mad says, are Velodyne still selling subs? Interestingly, that was my first subwoofer many days ago, back in the day when I worked at Circuit City. And I actually even reached out to them to see if they'd be interested in coming to Mwave. I think they're under new ownership. They're trying to start back up kind of, but man, it's one of those things. It's like once you kind of stepped out of the market, it's like you're just in the shadows. So I don't even know what it's going to take for them to enter back into
we
the
invited
market.
them or tried to reach out to them, didn't hear anything back.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, they're still a company, but I don't know. It says Velodyne no longer makes subwoofers. I thought they were. I don't know.
I thought he was asking if they still did.
Well, there was.
Oh, I don't know.
Tristan asked. He said his was a statement. He said Velodyne no longer makes.
Maybe they're doing rebrand stuff now.
That might be why.
Let's answer a couple of questions.
Yeah, do it.
Mosin asks, "What do you guys think about ultra short throw projectors?" Yeah. I think they're great in a certain application. I think long throws. I don't even know that you can compare them.
If you have a dedicated space, I would absolutely go with just a standard regular projector. To me, where the value of ultra short throw would be, say, for instance, in my living room. You know, if I look over here, I've got a big triple sliding glass door. So there's a lot of ambient light. I've got light here. I've got light basically all around here.
But would you still do that over a big TV in that space?
So well, here's the thing. What do you consider big? You know? So here's the thing, with a budget of, let's say if your budget's $5,000, you're not going to get a big TV. Not like, 100 inch. You can get 120 inch, sometimes 130 inch with an ultra short throw.
I guess that's true.
So if you're wanting to go pretty big like that, there's some really nice ones for the $3,000 mark, $4,000 mark, $5,000 mark.
Fair.
You know,
that's
so
true.
I think that's part of the equation. It's
but I think those TVs are still going to do better in a well-lit room than the ultra short throw is.
I I agree. I said, it just depends on like what are you going for. Like to me, I love immersion. I'll take a projector over a small TV any day of the week.
Yeah.
To me, if I'm wanting to watch movies. Now, if you're doing a lot of, sitcoms and I don't know, like sports and stuff, maybe you don't need a massive screen. So really, it's use case scenario. But I think they have their place, and the good thing is they're getting better and they're getting cheaper, which is pretty much with all electronics.
True.
So they're going to get even brighter, more vivid, more color space, and come down in cost as well. So the Hisense is definitely a great one. The two ones that I really enjoyed were the Hisense L9. It's like the L9G, if I remember correctly. And then the LG HU85HA.
Their model numbers are so weird.
That one is like, why did you have 6 digits in your model number? But
so bizarre.
But that one's really great too, but they're the most expensive as well.
Mike Ortiz, another question asks, if I bought a refurbished AVR like a 4500H versus the current 4700H, will I have any issues with HDCP? I don't think so. No. I don't even know what's the HDMI 2.1 is going to be the big difference between those two, and maybe some power in the amplifiers. If you have any interest in the 4700H, let me know. Shoot me a message. I may be able to get you a better pricing where that's looks a little more attractive. But feel free to shoot me a message.
Here's a quick question while I'm thinking about. We were talking about the USTs. Jed wants to know, do they make some that mount to the ceiling? Absolutely. Not all of them do. Several of them that I have reviewed do have that option. So it just really depends on the manufacturer, whether or not they offer that.
Novalicious. Next year, will you have smaller brands like Atlantic Technology and Ascendo? I hope so. So we got a lot of feedback.
We're open to anybody.
We got a lot of feedback this year about having some lower price options. So we're going to try. We're open to anyone. Yeah. We've put together a vendor list of people we're going to contact.
Literally,
what I think people need to realize about the reason we went the way we did is because we wanted to showcase the best of what each type of speaker had to offer, right? So electrostatics, horns, more traditional dynamic, even though the per listen really isn't a traditional dynamic. And then we had the CBTs from the JBLs. So it's, you can't really look at it as, oh, we're just showcasing the most expensive. The important thing is to figure out, do you like how horns operate? Do you like how electrostatics? Do you like how the per listen, more of a line source style dynamic operates, or the CBTs from JBL? What do you like? So I think people kind of got off on the wrong foot. And part of that is because we didn't explain that very well during the event. And that's something I think we have to do a little bit better next year, is the explanations. And we noted that Michael and I just went through, we've been talking at least
about 8 pages.
We're up to like 4 hours. We've been talking not for 4 hours, 2.5 hours now about everybody that submitted a survey. We went through everything. I notated a bunch of stuff of things we need to change, what we need to do, things we need to add. So we do listen.
Great suggestions. Like
we
really,
do
really
definitely listen.
What's kind of funny though. All right, so I'm going to throw this out. I need some feedback. We got 108 people in the chat. I just want to know. So one of the comments that, or several, not a bunch, but several comments were, man, it'd be really nice to have like some snacks and have some more drinks and a variety of drinks instead of just water. And
that was very expensive.
And what was funny is I started thinking, I'm like, I'm trying to think. All right, I've been to the Florida Audio Expo. They don't give you any. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, you go and for 3 days and you're a part of all the stuff there, but they don't have anything.
I've been to Flight Sim Expo. I've been to PAX East. I've been PAX West.
So just curious.
Bunch of stuff, and none of them have anything. But something that I want you guys to, I think, consider is that food is not free. It is feeding even just 100 people. People may say, "Oh, it's just an expo for 100 people," dude. It is not cheap.
I love
even if you're talking about pretzels, a bag of pretzels that are a couple bucks a piece. If you have 100 people just for pretzels, that's still a few $100s. Food trucks outside, definitely. That's something we
literally talked about that today. We're like, man, if we could get some local food trucks, that would solve that, because then people have access to it. If they want to purchase it, it's available. They don't feel like they have to leave for a while. They can just hop outside, grab it. So definitely, like I said, we're listening, but I just wanted to throw that out there. What your thought was on that. I just thought it was kind of funny. Like they were, and I agree, man. I would love to have some coffee available for everybody in the morning, kind of get you pumped up, especially.
Would be nice. I think we'll at least try and have some vendors available that can provide that.
Because we may even extend the Friday, kind of an all-day deal instead of just Friday night. So that'll give us like 3 full days, and that would give us more time to do some things. But that means we're gonna have to be there all day Thursday to set up, which would be great because this time we only had the same day to set up. So we were there like 8 a.m. and then registration is from 3 to 5.
And the reason we did that is because we didn't know how big the event was going to be.
Yeah.
So we were worried about breaking even. And you have remember, if the setup day, you still have to rent the venue for that day.
That is correct.
So we were trying to limit the expenses because we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah. So really, like this year, everything was unknown, like everything. And so we're trying some things. We have a plan.
It's still very much unknown.
Yeah. But at least we've got a better idea of, okay, what are things that we need for next year? What are things that we can improve? So,
well, and speaking of that, Spillage Village asks, would you guys be open to sponsorships from companies for future editions of Mwave for funding purposes? Absolutely. I mean, I think we still want to have some type of tie-in with Mwave, right? Because it can be difficult depending on what the company is and what they offer to make it feasible, and the sponsorship makes sense for that company. Because Michael and I view this and recognize this as a two-way street. We're not the type of individuals running an event that think, oh, we just need to get everything we can and we're not going to give anything back. We recognize very much that this is a two-way street and the vendors need things for sponsorship. I mean, you're paying for something. It's not just free money, even though that would be nice. But absolutely, Spillage Village, if there's something that you guys have to offer or anybody has to offer, I mean, let us know. We'll happily engage in that conversation. And if it's a great fit, move forward. And if it's not, try and work something out, or just say that it's not the best fit.
That's hilarious.
I saw the bill for barbecue. Yeah, man. Yeah, even pizza and stuff. I mean, even like Minsky's on Thursday nights. I mean, nothing's cheap.
Yeah. I mean, we were glad to do it. I promise. But it's just funny. Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I mean, it all worked out. The key here, though, is that people are wanting more, and it's like, guys.
I mean, Paul's wanting beer. I mean, what the heck, man? Come on.
Then you want to go through the hurdle of liquor license, Michael?
No, I don't want people spilling beer on your per listens either. How about that?
That's true. I don't really want them to get beer cans stacked on them.
That's hilarious, man. So, yeah, man. So it definitely a lot of logistics, but I could not have asked for a better group that was like extremely understanding. And it was cool because there was times that we're trying something mechanically and it's not working like we need it to, but everybody there, it's like we've all experienced that in our own setups. We're trying to configure something, and I mean, you were running Dirac, setting it up, and it said it was working, but then it wasn't working, and then it said it was working, then it wasn't working. You're like, what the heck? This doesn't make sense. And then I think it finally ended up working, but we've all experienced that. Bugs with software basically is what it is. It's basically a computer. So
Chris Contreras asked another question. Is there such a thing as too much speaker for a room? I'm building a theater room, 10 by 14, and want to have a 77-inch OLED, Polk R700s and Polk R100s for surrounds, along with an R300 center channel. No,
I think that system would be perfect for that size room. Yeah.
And the thing that I think a lot of people overlook is that they get these speakers with infinitesimally small drivers. And when you get really small drivers, and I think even the JBLs showcase this at Mwave because we were pushing them really hard, you run into distortion. And when you have small drivers, right, it's much easier to run into that distortion because they can't output the SPL and they have to work a lot harder. Yeah. So when you get into something like, I'm going to compare the Neoliths or the RTJ 410s that have enormous drivers, they have a much easier time, especially the RTJs with its coaxial horn and the 21-inch waveguide and the 18-inch subs, the 10-inch mids. It doesn't run into distortion at all because it has a tremendous amount of output because of the way the speaker was designed. So just because the speaker is big and you think it's too much for the room, you may be able to push it harder without running into distortion. Just plain and simple.
You might not want to put the RTJs in.
No, probably not. Probably not. That'd take up half your room.
418s, yeah, that's a bit.
I mean,
much,
Scott
man.
Newby, if he's here.
Scott is in the house. I saw him. He's got some crazy setup.
He's
pushing the
410s in his living room.
Yeah, he just increased his homeowner's insurance, I heard.
From the RTJs threatening to crack his foundation.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they're charging him more. Super fun stuff, man.
How did the rental van situation pan out? It worked out fine.
Yeah.
I think next year we'll get a bigger truck.
Yeah.
Because we were full virtually, and then Michael on the way home had a screen attacking his head on the way home.
I was driving like this. I'm like, okay, I'll just don't kill me, Ryan. Because if he would have slammed on brakes, that would have been a bad day for me.
I mean, I could have done that intentionally.
Yeah, that would have been rough. But yeah.
I know towers away from the wall is important for 2-channel music. Is it as big of a deal for my front 3 for movies? Yes, for sure. You don't want to put speakers in the corner. You're going to run into room gain issues. You're going to run into, if they're back ported, you're going to run into problems there. There's just room reflections and first reflection points, and you just want to pull them away from the wall. Ideally, subwoofers, not as much of an issue. There's still ideal placement for subs, but audio is audio. Regardless if it's 2-channel or home theater, you still want to put a speaker in its ideal position to get it performing its best. Did somebody buy the RTJs? No, they're still in my garage. I need to send those back to Jeff. Or maybe he'll let me keep them until next year.
You just have to ask him, say, hey, Jeff, man, it's going to cost a lot of money, and you really don't have the space. I know you're building the house. And everything. You've got enough on your plate.
I can store them for free. It's okay.
We'll just set them up as demos. People can come over and listen to them, and we'll get some orders for you, bro.
Yeah, so, I am selling a decent amount of RTJ, so maybe I got to ask him.
Who knows, man?
Jeff, if you're listening.
Hey, hit him up.
Brian says... And you probably know the answer to this question, Michael, because I don't have a Marantz.
Okay, where are we at? Go ahead.
Hey, guys, just got a Marantz pre-pro. Just trying to figure out when you play a movie and you go to surround perimeter, what is DRC and loudness management, and what does that do? Does anyone use that?
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I used. All right, DRC. Dynamic room correction?
No.
What is that? DRC on Marantz. I don't know. You want to Google
I think it's suppression of dynamic range.
Dynamic range compression?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't use that.
No.
Yeah, and like a loudness management. I mean, I know they have like dynamic volume, which I turned that off. So pretty much my understanding of that is, say for instance, like at night, if you've got it kind of turned down low, then it adds a little bit more bass. If you got it turned up loud, maybe it brings it down. But like I said, I don't really like it playing with that. I'd rather it just be kind of consistent. So I'll leave that off. But I don't know what a DRC is. If somebody knows in the chat, let us know. Loudness compression, Jed says. So so I don't like to. I like to let it do its thing.
But then you're going to run into clipping and a bunch of other stuff, and I don't usually like having any of that on. I don't like loudness management either. I guess it makes sense if you're trying to keep the noise down if other people are in the house and trying to sleep and stuff. Maybe.
So, yeah.
But I don't like turning any of that stuff on for any of my systems.
And Derek says compressed dynamic range, difference between loud and soft sounds. So
you don't want that.
I don't typically mess with that. Like I said, I just want it to do what it's supposed to do.
Oh, that's interesting. Carpenter says that the A9500K that was at the show just won the Value Electronics AK TV shootout.
Very cool, man.
Which it should. I mean, given what it is.
Yeah.
We need to talk to FOMO about that one. FOMO
was super excited when it showed up. He's like, guys, do you realize like what we have here? And I'm like,
he was over there fanboying all over it for like 6 hours.
I don't know TVs, so I had no idea what we had. But he's like, this is cool. He's like, you guys are getting it before Robert's getting it. He said, that's pretty awesome. So
it was pretty cool. I mean, it was cool to see.
Beautiful display, that's for sure. Sweet deal. Yeah, DRC, dynamic range compression. Gotcha. What other questions you got over here? You got a bunch of them starred.
I've already gone through a lot of them.
Okay.
You start a bunch of these just
I
recently.
did.
You asked some of them.
Well, I don't know what you've asked though.
I've gone through.
Here we go. Well, unstar them when you get it through with them. That's what I always do.
There.
All right, cool. We got to unstar them.
I'm unstarring.
All right,
I'm going backwards.
So here's all right. Good. So I'll start kind of near the bottom end. So will there be a Dolby Cinema JVC projector? Now, what would that look like?
I don't know. You'd have to compete with like Barco and Christie at that point. I don't know that you're going to be able to do that.
Because my understanding, they actually use, like in a Dolby Cinema, they use 2 Christie projectors. So when I was looking on the website,
I don't know that JVC even has any ambitions to compete with Christie, because Christie's like $250,000 to $500,000. I don't think that's not their market.
Yeah. There's a question. Chadman says, any thoughts about in-wall speakers? Do you sacrifice anything going to? So my thoughts is most in-wall speakers don't have their own box. So in other words, they're kind of open on the backside and all the crossovers exposed, the rear of the speakers exposed, and it uses the inside of your wall, that cavity, as its speaker box. Well, when you're building a speaker, the box matters. I mean, the size of the box, the shape of the box and those sort of things. And so when you're installing in a wall, you really don't have any control over what the box for the speaker looks like. It can be thicker, it could be taller, it could be wider, and so forth. So
could be other crap in it.
Yeah, I mean, I've just never had an amazing experience with in-walls. I've heard some good systems. There was a gentleman that built he had a 12 by 13 inch, that would be terrible, 12 by 13 foot bedroom. That'd be really small. That'd be a tiny home, right?
Theater for ants.
12 by 13 foot bedroom. He had 4 theater seats, right side by side. So it took up wall to wall, but he had a complete home theater in there. It was 120 inch, I believe, maybe 130 inch screen, acoustic transparent. And one thing that he used was Triad speakers, and they're in walls, and they actually sounded really, really good. But I think Triad kind of like focuses on that. They're not a speaker brand that happens to make in-wall speakers. I think they really put a lot of R&D into making good quality. And they also have, I think, like 3 or 4 different levels of those too, depending on your budget. So if you're going to go with in-walls, I would definitely at least go listen to some Triads. That might be a good option. I always prefer either a bookshelf speaker, floor standing speaker, myself. Ryan, what are your thoughts on in-walls?
The same as what you just said. I mean, getting a cabinet speaker you're effectively getting a speaker that's designed to interact with the cabinet instead of playing guessing games with what's in the wall. In-wall speakers are great, but I would say a cabinet speaker is always going to be better in my opinion.
So the other part, you've got to think about with like an in-wall, where do you put your center channel? If you have some kind of cabinet up front, that may or may not work unless you're able to put it like, and again, a lot of things vary. Do you have a projection screen? Do you have a TV? So you got to think about, okay, where's that center channel going to go? If you got an acoustic transparent screen, then you could do vertical, all 3 behind. That'd be great. So definitely an option there. Like I said, the other thing is, what if you want to upgrade down the road? 2 floor standing speakers.
That's a good point.
If you don't have a screen, and let's say this is in your living room, now you got speakers in your wall, and you pretty much got to leave them in the wall unless you want to redo drywall. So there's definitely just some things to consider. I know they're convenient. I know they have a wife acceptance factor out the roof. They're seamless and they don't stand out in the room. But I think there's definitely some trade-offs there acoustically and sound wise. So, but good question there. Let's see. Have you thought about displaying home theater seating next year? Again, we're open to whatever.
Valencia was there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love for Valencia to send a representative too, and a couple of their seats would be cool.
We kind of engaged them a little late. Everybody got engaged pretty late this year.
I mean, we invited them early. I started inviting 6 months ago, but it's just a matter of, I mean,
but even then people are running out of marketing budgets, and also it was a brand new event, and people are like, do I really want to invest in this when we don't know how this is going to go?
Yeah, the cool
So-
thing is now we have a what do they call it? A proof of concept. I mean, it's a legit deal. Like, we made it happen. I believe it was a success. We're going to continue to improve on it. And but yeah. So I'd be totally open, if Seatcraft wants to come, bring it, man.
Yep.
I'd love the more options that consumers have a chance to get to see, to feel, to touch. And even as we saw at Mwave, to even do the sniff test, smell them jokers. It's like, yeah, that smells good. That's a good thing. Let's see. Take that one off. Jonathan, what's he got here? He says, regarding the JBL, they should have been able to do 120 dB continuous. We weren't anywhere near that level. Was there a high pass filter?
I don't think there was a high pass filter employed. We didn't have any of that on.
True full range speaker. They're a 10 dB down at 45 hertz.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're not a true full range. But something to consider is that room was enormous.
Yeah.
And I know they are beamformers, and maybe it was the speaker, but when Simon and I were off axis, you could hear something was going on to them where they were running into distortion when we were fast switching back and forth. And maybe it was just that particular speaker. I don't know, but that room was huge. Yeah. So if it's going to push a speaker, that's going to be the place that's going to do it. And something may have been wrong, or it may have just been subjective to what Simon and I heard, but there was it seemed like subjectively that something was going on. Now, we did measure 85 dB at the listening position, but as far as I understand it, the bigger the room and the farther away the main listening position is, the harder that speaker is going to have to go in order to get to it. Now, it could have definitely been that particular speaker that was having problems. I don't know. That was just subjectively what I heard. But you're right. They should have been able to do 120 dB pretty easily. I don't know what happened. There was something going on with them. Maybe it was just the low end that we were running into problems with because they're not full range. Could have been it.
Cool. So one thing Jan mentions about the in walls is some of them do actually have their own cabinets, which is true.
Triad, I think, has them with their own cabinets.
So that would be my other caveat. If they have a back box, I think you're going to get a much better sound because they've engineered it to sound.
Yep. I mean, you're effectively putting a cabinet speaker in a wall.
Correct. And I'd be much more open to that than just an open back. So M&K sound, absolutely. In walls are closed cabinets. They sound the same. Perfect. Yeah, see, I could totally get that. So appreciate the extra thoughts on that. What else we got? That. Throwing a couple more stars here. Yeah, we had lots of help, Fred. The RTJs, they're quite heavy. The good thing is they're modular. So there's technically 6 speakers. You have the 2 subwoofers on top, the 2 middle kind of tower part that has the 410s and the 21-inch horns, and then the 2 subwoofers on the bottom. So each one of those are their own component, but it's still, I mean, you're lifting 100 to 200 pound speaker subwoofer above your head because these things are 7 foot tall, so that's kind of awkward. But they're definitely. Glad
I could pawn off the moving onto other people.
I mean, I did see Salk, which is in the chat. He was sitting here walking one of them, by himself, just real slowly. It was kind of funny, but he had one of the towers, one of the 410s he was managing. Yeah, definitely no picnic to handle for sure.
Jay Sill says, looking at upgrading my projector screen, when you guys upgrade your screens, did you notice an improvement in PQ?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't. I went from an Elite to a Seymour acoustic transparent. So I probably even lost a little bit of light, like as far as gain. But to me, going from 103 to 150. But did you
go from non-AT to AT?
I did.
And the fact that you didn't notice anything, I think, says something about the quality of the screen, though.
So I went from 103 to 150. That was the wow factor for me, man. I was like,
yeah, but the fact that you went from a non-AT to an AT screen and you didn't notice a drop in PQ is saying something.
Yeah. I thought he was saying hey, was there this massive, oh my gosh, this is so much more beautiful than, no, I didn't notice that.
I think if you get a quality screen, I think the key is getting a quality screen, not just for the screen, but for the build quality, right? because I bought a not quality screen and I was having problems with rattle and a bunch of other stuff. And the gain on it wasn't actually the gain because we measured it and it wasn't right. So I gained quite a bit of brightness going to the Seymour, and it was the build quality is phenomenal in comparison. So if you're interested in a screen, feel free to hit me up. I got Stewart and Seymour, and they're both fantastic.
Did you answer this one, Ryan?
Do I have any experience with Ashendo or Atlantic technology? I don't.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm open to them, but I don't have any experience with them.
Setting up a new. Did you do this one?
Yes.
Why don't you unstar these?
I'm trying to.
I'm gonna start working from the bottom then. Started from the bottom. Now we're here.
I got one.
Terrible. All right, there you go.
Go to Guru says the amount of trust you had in people to respect such high-end audio equipment was unreal at the event, and to not have any major accidents happening just shows how much respect the people had for everything. It was really a great dude. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We didn't have any issues with gear. I had tools everywhere. We had stuff everywhere. I had kaleidoscopes just sitting around. Oh, I was worried. I had like all kinds of stuff.
I know there was one time you were like, anybody seen a kaleidoscope? It's like this yay big. It was in a box.
Or funny. My Z-Do was like, anybody seen a Z-Do?
That's what it was.
But I did say that about the kaleidoscope because I didn't know where it went. Now, I didn't think anybody took it. I was like, did somebody move it? Where did it go? But I think that's a big talk up to the Kansas City group and just the caliber of people we have here. And it was just, I didn't worry about anything at all.
We had people that were driving up from like 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was awesome to know that they believed in the event enough to like invest in that amount of time. One dude shows up like 2 days early.
Oh yeah. John.
It was hilarious, man. He was excited. He's like,
that was a great experience though, having him over and stuff.
It was. Like, hey John, since you're here a day early, just come on over and hang out with us. So that was cool. Getting to know him. Let's see what else.
Raphael says, if I'm looking at around 3 foot from listener to left and right side surround, better to go with a bi or dipole or monopole. I would say a bi or a dipole.
I think you're definitely going to
more diffused
first that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Being that close. Yeah.
It's going to make it more difficult to localize the speaker. And if you're only doing those two surrounds, it's going to make a huge difference. I had in my previous house, I had Martin Logan FX2s sitting about 1.5 feet from my head, and the dispersion coming out of them made it very difficult to localize them, and it was hugely worth it. If you put a monopole back there, you're going to be like, there's the speaker, and it's just not as good. It's not as good of an experience.
I think you'll find that those are probably good end game speakers. Happy for you, man.
Yeah, you're just going to be in a position where you're going to be adding more.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
I don't want to add more, man. I'm totally like good. Well, except for my surrounds and except for my app. Okay, you're right. Never mind.
JL380 says, I have dual 12-inch subs. Both subs are facing the sidewalls. They are front firing subs with rear ports. I'm getting great bass response this way. Have you seen this setup? Yeah, that should work. Your port's open to the room.
Yeah. I think the reality is if you're able to measure it and you see a pretty flat frequency response, dude.
Try and move them and see what happens.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like, if you got a good response, leave it, dude. I mean, unless you want to, you can mark it and, as long as you know where they were. Because you definitely don't want to move them and go, oh, I got crappy bass here. And then you never can get that same bass somewhere else. So Tim says, I think it'd be cool to have a small class on subwoofer calibration with REW, the mini DSP. I know they have YouTube videos on it, but I think it would be cool. Tim, you're so right. Ryan and I actually talked about something to, along the lines. I think the difficulty is it may be hard to do. Like, I know somebody mentioned, like, let's do a class on everything REW. You physically can't, or mini DSP. Now, what we could do is show kind of some basic, like surface level kind of stuff. Like, what do you need to take some basic measurements of your room, whether it's a speaker or whether it's a subwoofer? How do you connect that? How do you set it up? How do you got to choose whether you're going to do the, I never can remember, ISAO driver. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
No,
either
ISIO.
Yeah, that thing. I always mess it up. Or are you going to do like the Java driver? Is that the Java? I know there's two of them. Anyway, So one allows you to basically be able to just run a sweep on a speaker, which is really, really convenient. You can do like 7 speakers, your bed layer speakers and your subwoofers. So can we do one on subwoofer calibration? Possibly. So again, a lot of that by moving the venue to like a
place with more rooms,
college that has more of those rooms available, I think that would definitely help for things like that. And by offering those types of things at multiple times, then
because we're going to be able to do those things and allow other people to do other things. Unlike this year, we probably should have done something like that, but we were going in blind. So
we're trying one thing at a time, man.
I think it's a great suggestion, and it's something 100%. Worth doing for sure.
Yeah, I would love to. I think the more educational we can provide, the experiences are setting us apart from any other venue already. I mean, everybody's doing trade shows. I mean, and some are doing seminars, but nobody's doing comparisons. So we already know that is something fundamentally that is different for Mwave. The relationships that are, we really intentionally focus on building relationships and creating an environment that allows you to build relationships with other audio enthusiasts and video enthusiasts and learn from each other. So that in itself makes it different. But I would love to be able to add some kind of workshops on the how-to of different things. Somebody made a good suggestion. I didn't tell you this, Ryan, I don't think, but they said it would even be kind of cool just to show somebody physically, like maybe get a subwoofer or 2 subwoofers and kind of put them on rollers, take a measurement, move it around the room. And so you can physically see, okay, man, we moved this just to this other wall and it completely changed my frequency response. But then that could be inclusive in that, like, okay, here's how you take a measurement. Here's what happens and why it's important to try different places in your room to see if you get a good frequency response, and why you can't just go by what you think in your ear where it sounds good. It's always best to have like a calibrated mic and REW.
Absolutely. So Arjun Sud says, I have an Arundel 1723 speakers and Emotiva XPA amps. I'm thinking of upgrading from my Denon 4400 and trying to decide between an Anthem AVM 90 or a Trinov Altitude 6. What do you guys recommend and why?
So this goes back to, in a way, your room correction software, maybe. What I wasn't in that room. I don't know if you had a chance to be in there, if you got some feedback.
I did go in there. And this could be subjective, Sud, so take it for what it is. I preferred, and I went through all of them blind, and I picked out Dirac. Dirac, I feel like, has the most flexibility. It's the...
And so that was
the Storm.
Okay, Storm Audio.
Yeah. I just felt like it had the most flexibility. It's got a little bit of a learning curve to get used to, but I picked it out blind, and it was the one that I liked the most. Now, taking this a step further, I actually have a Storm Audio ISP Mark II in my room, in my showroom. Now, I bought that Storm before I became a dealer, and I would do it again if that tells you anything about that product. Storm just continues to give you free things. They gave us DTSX Pro for free. They're bringing out a 3D calibration tool, much like what Trinov has in their series processors. They just continue to make the product better, and I would buy another one in a heartbeat. So Anthem did fairly well at the room correction. I think people really liked it. A lot of other people, I think, also liked the Storm. Not a lot of people really liked Room Perfect, from what I understood.
That was the Lingdorf.
Gotcha. The Storm, it was Dirac. A lot of people liked the Dirac.
Now, keep in mind too. So one thing to consider: the room that we had was a very large room.
It was large room.
We had 40 people in the room, and we still had plenty of space around them. The ceilings,
they were very tall,
20 feet. So it's not a typical home theater room. So I would imagine those were pretty challenging circumstances for any of those.
Yeah.
So would they have fared differently in a different environment?
Quite possibly.
You know, the other thing to consider too, Sud, is like, how much do you want to get involved in the calibration part of it? You know, the Denon is kind of like it walks you step by step, and it pretty much does everything for you. Versus a Trinov, there's going to be a pretty steep learning curve. Storm, nothing wrong with that, but just know going into it, you're not just going to be able to hit, all right, let's run room correction and we're good to go and set up. So
now something, because I see people now, Croson and Austin, talking about which one they liked more. Something that I think I need to talk about, and actually there was a question about this, about room calibration, is that we did not go back, and maybe we should have. We probably should have, but we were kind of running out of time. We did not go back and level match anything. So it's very possible that the room corrections, especially, everybody liked ARC, and I think a big reason that people liked ARC is because the subs seemed to be hot. It's very possible, and this is just subjective. I don't know. This is just me guessing. That it's possible that it wasn't level matched, maybe. Not that Dirac was, but a lot of times room calibration software doesn't get the level matching perfect. So it's very important that you go back after room calibration is done and level match all of the speakers. You're going to get a much more seamless experience, and that goes for any room correction software.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts on subcrawl. Chris mentions, why don't I ever hear about the subcrawl? And then there was another comment, subcrawl is flawed with multi-sub. To me, I personally don't care for even the concept of the subcrawl. Is it better than, doing nothing? Yes. But the problem is the subcrawl will, and for those of you that aren't familiar with it, you basically take your subwoofer, place it in where your main seat is. Okay. And then you crawl around and you place some content. You crawl around your room till you find basically like the most bass, a good solid bass. The problem with that is you don't know if that's boomy bass in certain frequencies or if you've got nulls in other frequencies. So you're just kind of going by what you're like, if you're feeling bass. So yes, you're going to get bass if you reverse that and put your sub where you got that amount of bass. You just don't know what type of bass. You don't know how flat the frequency response is. So I'm still a big proponent. Go get a calibrated microphone. Mini DSP sells the UMic 1, UMic 2. Behringer, I think, sells one. There's several brands that sell them. But get one of those and run REW, and then you can physically see. I just think it's a much better way of approach than doing a subcrawl. And then when you get multiple subwoofers, like how do you know, like that? Like where are you you can't stack two subwoofers because then you can't put it in multiple locations. So he's right on that. So
you got
I find it. Appreciate the super chat. $4.99. Do you think the REQ differences were the software or the hardware? What if the Storm processor used Odyssey? That would be interesting. A lot of people would be pissed, probably.
Yeah.
What if the Marantz used Dirac? Thanks.
I think there's different implementations of how pre-pros and AVRs are implementing Dirac, but I don't know how much of that changes. I don't know enough about it to know how much of that is.
I think what he's saying is the.
Well, I know what he means, but I don't know enough to answer that question very well, if at all.
I would think it would be the software side. So Dirac,
that's what I would think. Odyssey,
I think that's going to make more difference than maybe the components that Storm uses in their processor versus the, I just think, say for instance, with a Storm, they're probably doing more processing and more mathematical algorithms than Odyssey. So
well, in the Storm, you actually have to have a internet connection because it has to get sent off to Europe for processing for Dirac. Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
They do a lot.
They have a dude over there doing all the calculations. He sends it back to you in an email or what? That's awesome. That's a different approach for sure. Yeah. Great question though. I mean, again, we're kind of just thinking.
I don't have a good answer. I would assume it's more software based, but I know there is some differences, especially with Dirac, with the implementations and how they implement it.
So what did you have before the Storm?
I had a Marantz 8805, and it is night and day, in my opinion. And that's very subjective because I never had them next to each other.
Yeah. I've got a Marantz. I love it. AB7706. But
I'm going to shout out to Jonathan. He has a Denon. He doesn't even use room correction.
Yeah. And it sounds amazing, man. So yeah. So a lot of it's about calibration. So, oh man, we got a bunch over here, dude. Let's go to some of the older ones. Let's see. Okay, so we got that one. Ryan's not doing a good job here.
Dude,
I'm just throwing you under the bus all night
I'm
long,
getting
man.
it.
It's all good. Hey, it keeps you humble, man. Trying to see other calibration software. Okay, here we go. Good question here. So, Theater Mad, after running Odyssey or any other calibration software, do all of your speakers have to be the same dB?
I think I kind of talked about that. You want to go back and level match for sure. It'll make a big difference.
Okay. Given the issues that he had with the Anthem amp, should I be concerned if I'm looking at an MCA525?
I don't think so. I think the Anthem amp was just getting pushed really hard by the Neoliths. The Martin Logan electrostatics, especially the really big ones, when you get up into high volumes, are really, really hard on amplifiers. I mean, you're talking up in around 15,000 hertz down to just over 0 ohms. So they're effectively shorting an amp. And it's very difficult for amplifiers to drive. And the Neoliths had passive subs. So the Anthem was having to drive the subs as well. And it was getting work out. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much. I think you'd be fine.
Cool. Had to take care of Mr. Naked Man over there in the chat. Posting some crazy stuff. All right, here we go. ZZ Top 7000. What do you think of the new Rail Predator 1510? Is this better than the Rail 1508? I love my Predator 1508.
What is the difference?
I don't have a whole lot of, well, I'm assuming it's an 8-inch versus a 10-inch. Is that correct?
I thought the Predator was a 15.
Let's look it up. 1510. Rail 1510. That, and again, this is a guess because I don't know Rail. Okay, the 1510 is a $1,900 subwoofer. Okay, so about 15s. I know they make some smaller subs too. 1,000-watt amplifier, 15-inch on the 1510. And then what was the other one?
1508. I can't imagine there being a huge difference.
Let us know. Is that like this year's model versus last year's model kind of thing?
Maybe guessing there's a different power supply because the 1510 has a 1,000 watt power supply, but I don't see any talk about what the comparison is. I'm on the AVS thread.
Okay.
What the comparison is to the
1508. It's $1,400 marked down from 19. So I'm thinking it's older. So it's got an 800-watt amplifier. So it's a little bit. Yeah, I mean, they may have made some changes in it, but honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I'm not familiar with them.
I can't. Well, nope. I don't know. I'd just be guessing.
Yeah. So Carpenter, among the various AV companies that are in discussion for next year, are you guys currently in contact with JBL? Would love to have them out next year with reps and more JBL Pro Cinema gear. I'm not sure we'll ever get into Pro Cinema. I mean, because then that opens up like a whole world of stuff. I mean, now you're bringing EV, you're bringing in.
I mean, we could talk to JBL about synthesis, but the issue with that is their pro side and their consumer side are totally separate. So then you'd be engaging two companies effectively.
Right. Yeah. Yes. I don't know if we'll ever get pro audio in there.
Maybe eventually, but we gotta get this working and rolling.
Here's a good question from the wife. Raphael's wife says, there any good brewery near the Mwave next year? So at the college or near the college. Might determine if Raphael gets to come.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Kansas City really isn't a brewery area.
Yeah, I just have to Google it.
We got some great restaurants, but we're not known for our.
Some of the guys did hit some breweries.
There's
I think
Boulevard.
Chris said he went somewhere. Remember
up
that?
North.
Chris said he was at a bar.
Well, there's bars, but not really breweries.
I don't know the difference.
They make beer at a brewery.
Okay. Gotcha. Shows you how much I know about my beers. All right. Let's see, Justin, if you had to start over from scratch, what would be the first thing you would purchase? Speakers, like front, left, and right. And you're going to have something to power them. So maybe an AVR, because if you buy the AVR and you don't have speakers and you don't have any music, so to me, that's like, you got to figure out what speakers you like.
You don't
like
need an
sound.
AVR. You could just get an amplifier and
have
just play from your
though.
phone.
But that's what I'm saying. You got to have it depends on what you're talking about. If
you
you're
could get
thinking
active
home
speakers
theater,
and not worry about it.
I mean, if you're thinking home theater, again, I mean, you need to find speakers that you like the way that they sound and begin to build your theater around them. Even if you start off with bookshelves for the front two, you can always move those as surrounds and get towers down the road or get another set of bookshelves. So to me, I mean, that's kind of I always buy like an AVR and the front two speakers. Then I would add the subwoofer. Then I would add your center channel. Because to me, you can have a cool LCR, but if you don't have that bottom end, it's not as exciting. I can get a decent phantom image, with two stereo speakers for now until I can afford to get a center channel. So once you get the front three, the subwoofer, then add your side surrounds or back surrounds, then do Atmos, and then, I mean, there's always stuff to add. Add a second subwoofer. You can add an amplifier down the road, bigger TV, bigger projector, whatever. So, but definitely, I mean, I think speakers and something to power them with, that's where you got to begin. A couple more questions here. Chris says, I'm going to purchase the Emotiva Basics 3-channel to power my Polk center channel and Onkyo power surround. Okay, so the Onkyo is going to power the surrounds and 4 in-ceiling speakers. How would I run Dirac for this? Totally fine. You're going to use the pre-outs on the Onkyo to go into the Emotiva.
Yep.
And then there's speaker outs on the Emotiva going to those 3 speakers. And then the processor itself doesn't care where the amplification is coming from.
Nope.
It's taken a physical measurement of how loud is this one, what kind of, what's
the only thing you'll need to do with Dirac is you're going to need to do a pre-level match ahead of time, because it wants to make sure that your speakers aren't too out of whack for when it tries to do its EQ, because if they're too high or too low, it can run into some massive problems, and that's just normal with EQ. So you may need to turn things down ahead of time, but as Michael said, it's not going to matter.
Yep.
The Onkyo is not going to care.
People do that all the time. So adding a 3-channel amplifier to kind of take some of the load off the AVR, absolutely nothing wrong with that. A couple more here. How do you go back and level match? So you would need like an SPL meter. If you go to Amazon and search for SPL meter.
Well, you wouldn't need that if you're doing something with Storm, or you could probably do it with Arc. You could use the calibration mic.
Okay.
With Rue.
Okay. So that's interesting.
You would just
use
Rue, and you wouldn't need it. You could do it with Rue, and then Rue has an SPL meter, and then you can go in and look and check each speaker, and then level match them to 75 or 85. Storm does 85 for its reference volume, so it just depends on what you're trying to do. But Rue is a great tool for that, or you can get a cheap SPL meter.
I'm easy, man. I just turn the thing on. I'm like, all right, you go back into your AVR and you go to levels under, like if you've got one with Odyssey, it'll say speakers and level, and then you'll say test tones, and then you literally go through each speaker and go, okay, yep, that one's 85, that one's 85, and then you just adjust the level, the trim levels in the AVR to match, each other. All right, let's see what else we got. What made you go with Storm over Trinov?
Customer service was the big reason. And that's no downplay on Trinov. Storm's customer service, man, was amazing and still is amazing. When I first bought that, Matt, who works for Storm, I didn't know how Dirac was operating or anything. He logged in, and he works for Storm, logged in and handheld me, explained how Dirac worked, took me through my first Dirac calibration. It was an amazing experience. So I have no regrets. And again, I bought it before I was a dealer. If I wasn't a dealer and I had to buy one, I would buy it again. The company's amazing.
Now, Trinov, they're overseas. Is that right?
Yeah, they're both, Storm and Trinov are both in France. They're actually located very close to one another.
Okay, gotcha.
And they have a fairly good relationship. Like they're great guys. It's just Storm's customer service here in the United States and the one-on-one attention and everything. It's customer service. Like when you start getting into that level of product, service becomes a big part of it.
Yeah.
And Storm just has it in spades.
Nice.
Coupling that with their continual release of new products and enhancements and listening to their customers' feedback and stuff, and there's no comparison in my eyes. I'd do it again.
I think we kind of did this one, right? Smaller brand,
yeah, we did
technology.
That one.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I not turn that one off?
No.
Crozen's calling us out for not knowing the breweries in Kansas City, or specifically
hey, dude,
me.
Crozen, I wouldn't know that. My goodness, man. If I knew that,
so I wouldn't know.
That'd be a problem. Yeah, if the pastor's really familiar with all the breweries, we got issues there, man. So, all right, Youthman and Ryan, mind describing for everyone the sounds of the RTJs and the Nihilists playing in the lead center, particularly from the audience seating.
The audience seating. You mean like in the
the
actual?
So you're talking about like when we step back away from the stage.
We did experience that.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
The RTJs were shaking the entire building.
Yeah. I mean, they had 4 18s. The Martin Logans have dual 215s
passive
total.
15s.
Yeah.
You're talking 8,000 watts of amplification for subs versus 300.
Yeah. I mean, you're just getting the amplifier.
Yeah. The difference in sound staging is going to be the let's start with the RTJs. The RTJs are very wide, right? Not localized. You have a center image, but it's very wide, right? And it's a very wide sound. I think their dispersion's like 90 degrees. I think something like that with their 21-inch wave guides. It's very wide. It's a huge sound that comes out of those things is the only way I can describe it. The Martin Logans, on the other hand, they're the complete polar opposite. I mean, it's 30 degrees of dispersion and it's impeccable center soundstage. So you're trading a huge soundstage for a very focused soundstage. And that's the reason they were cool to have right next to each other, because they're the opposite ends of the spectrum from one another. Do you want a huge diffuse soundstage, or do you want a very focused linear soundstage right in the middle? That's what it comes down to. What are you laughing about?
I'm looking at all these brewery comments from Croson. 107.75. He even offers to do a.
He's probably been.
He's like, I'll do a brew tour.
You don't drink, obviously. No, I know that Kansas City has a bunch. I don't know.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Sorry,
I'm not the right person to ask.
I got chuckled. Too funny, man. Comment here. Raphael says real upgrade comes from a new AVR, maybe to something like an Anthem will absolutely change your sound. It did for me.
Oh, in comparison to like something from Odyssey. Odyssey does great. It's just there's new things on the block. How about the pub crawl? Sub crawl to pub crawl.
That's fantastic, Chris. That's hilarious.
Maybe we should do a subwoofer shootout in a pub.
Oh gosh.
Vibrate all their glasses off the wall.
That's hilarious.
They probably wouldn't appreciate that very much.
So bottom line, man, we had an absolute blast getting to meet you guys, both in the VIP as well as at the event. Super fun day. Definitely go check out the website at midwestavexperience.com. We've got some photos up there. There's also a link to a Facebook group. People have been posting some photos and their thoughts and comments, and it was just a really awesome event. So we're going to do our best to take all the content, all of the collective feedback that you guys have shared with us to make this event even better. I really think we're onto something really, really cool. I really believe that.
I think so. With how the event went, I mean, I was really nervous, but then once the video day started, I was good.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Oh, it's funny. Oh, see, look. So he said wife will let him buy whatever he wants if they did it in a pub. So I'll fly us down if you can hook him up with some beer.
We can do that. That's not a problem.
That's hilarious. So as we, just to kind of let you know, we're Ryan and I met today, went through all the feedback. We're actually going to reach out to the college, see if they have the same dates available. Right now, we're looking at July 21st through the 23rd.
Yeah,
let me pull it up.
Something like that.
Yeah, 21st through the 23rd. We've already contacted the lead center. They're available that date. So as long as the college is pretty close to that or that, so we're still thinking about that time frame. It's right before school, so we don't have to worry about school schedules and all that stuff. It's still kind of summertime. And it's way before CEDIA and all the other trade shows. It doesn't kind of intermingle with those. So, so anyway, so just keep an eye on that. Best way to kind of keep up to date with what's going on with Mwave is just go to midwestaviexperience.com and go to the, I'll put it up here, go to the newsletter. And so I'll send out updates on that. As soon as we have information, I send that out first to announce everything.
I promise we don't bombard you with things. It's just things that are pertinent to the event.
Yeah, it's literally short things. It's just like today I sent out one. I'm like, hey, join us tonight for the live stream because we're going to be talking about Mwave and such.
Yep.
So, but anyway, guys, man, we appreciate y'all. It was a blast. Love getting a chance to meet you in person. Next year's going to be bigger, better. We're excited for it. So get ready. And with that said, man, I hope y'all have a great week. Ryan, always a pleasure.
Yeah. And if any of you guys need anything home theater wise or just want to talk shop, feel free to reach out to me. It's
absolutely.
I promise I don't bite and I will not pressure you into anything. I don't think Michael would have come on board with me or wanted me to be part of these events if that was how I did business. So it's I'm just here to try and help you guys all out with your home theater experience and make it as good as possible. So
cool, man.
It's shows number 1's in the books. I'm glad it's that way, but we're on to number 2.
Yeah, already. So we got a year to plan, a lot of stuff going on. We'll continue to update the website. And but you guys have a great week.
Yep. See you guys in the next one. We'll